Hello, and thank you for clicking on this video. Now, yes, I am very aware that without getting into spoilers for the future of House of the Dragon seasons, if the Dance of the Dragons had not happened the way it did, the Targaryens, who are in the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, would probably not exist. So a timeline in which both the dragons from Hot D and the Tarks from Duncan Egg coexist is extremely unlikely, but just play along with me here, okay? If by some miracle they did, which dragons from House of the Dragon would the Targaryens that we see in Duncan Egg bond with? We have 6 Targaryens in Duncan Egg and 17 dragons in House of the Dragon. We got Baelor, Maekar, Valarr, Aerion, Daeron, and Aegon, aka Egg, so let's start with Egg. So, Egg, he's the most important Targaryen in the show, he's a deuteragonist, and picking a dragon for him was actually kind of difficult, but I landed on 3 dragons that I think he's the most likely to bond with. So let's start with Silverwing. Silverwing was written by good Queen Alysanne during the reign of King Jaehaerys, and also potential spoilers for future Duncan Egg here, because I'm going to be using some stuff that's found in the World of Ice and Fire book. From what we know in Fire and Blood, Silverwing was actually a relatively docile and kind of kind dragon, or as kind as a dragon can be, known less for her war record and more for the fact that she traveled to every corner of Westeros with good Queen Alysanne, even to the Wall, but only briefly. She had a deep bond with not just Queen Alysanne, but also her mate Vermithor, and all the times the personalities of the dragons kind of match those of their riders, and this is absolutely one of those cases. Her husband gets a lot of credit for fixing a lot of the issues of Westeros, but she played a large part in it because she was a champion for the small folk. She convinced King Jaehaerys to abolish the right of the First Night, which she considered to be barbaric and was practiced primarily in the north, and she hosted her women's courts in which she found out about the widows and what they went through, so she created the widow's law. Basically, she made it so whenever a woman lost her husband and then remarried, the sons of the second husband could not expel their father's wives upon his death. They would have to honor and treat those women as if they were prior to the widow's second husband's death. And this kind of sympathy towards small folk is exactly the kind of thing I think Egg would do after a lifetime of living with the small folk and traveling all over Westeros. I just think this dragon would be perfect for Egg because it's large and beautiful and intimidating, but it's also gentle and kind, and I just think they would have a really amazing bond. Now, an alternative for Egg is Sheepstealer, who also is kind of a champion of the small folk in a kind of different way. Sheepstealer's writer between the book and show is different, so I'm kind of merging with canons here, but it doesn't matter. It's fine because, well,
we're making this shit up.
So, Sheepstealer, why a champion of the small folk? Well, he was written by Nettles, who was in Fire and Blood, but was cut out from House of the Dragon. Nettles may have had Targaryen descent, but does not look in any way Targaryen. And Sheepstealer is a raggedy looking dragon, claimed by somebody from the small folk, and it would be fitting for him to now be written by somebody who grows up to love the small folk when Egg eventually becomes king. Now, my last potential pick for Egg is Tessarion, the Blue Queen, who we saw very briefly at the end of Hot D Season 2, but we'll see more of in Season 3. She's a loyal, small, but fierce dragon, and I think that her bright blue and purple colors is something that would really attract Egg. So these are my options for Egg. He was kind of hard to pinpoint, but this is kind of what I landed with for him. But someone who was not difficult to pinpoint like at all was Daeron the Drunken, who honestly, he probably wouldn't even want a dragon or the responsibilities that come with having a dragon, but I'm sure that Maekar would probably force him to get one. And if he did, I think it would be Syrax, Queen Rhaenyra Targaryen's dragon. Why Syrax? Well, please don't be offended, Syrax fans, but she was kind of a pampered princess by the time of the Dance of the Dragons who never really did anything. By the time Rhaenyra was queen, she didn't really go hunting, she didn't fight in any wars. Rhaenyra barely took her out for a flight, and she was just fed whenever she was at Dragonstone or at King's Landing, and she got fat and lazy. And I think that Daeron would be more than happy to keep Syrax fed, plump, and happy, never having to take her out for a flight, when he could spend his days drinking his way through King's Landing instead of bonding with his dragon. So yeah, not a difficult one for me, but if you want to give him a second option just for the fun of it, I think Sunfire is a good choice, mainly because I think Sunfire would be reminded of Aegon's drunkenness by Daeron's drunkenness. Now let's move on to his brother, the show's big bad, Aerion Brightflame. Like with Egg, I actually have more than one option for him. First one is Vhagar. Why? Because it's kind of the closest thing to Balerion, given that she fought alongside Balerion during the conquest and was written by Queen Visenya, who was Maegor's mother, and Aerion is a pretty big Maegor stan, as we can see from the show. Aerion is aggressive, he wants to return to the old Targaryen ways, he demands a trial of 7, and the last time that was done was for Maegor the Cruel's trial of 7, and of course Aerion names his son Maegor. So if he can't get Balerion, I think Maegor's the next best thing for him. However, we also have to consider that Vhagar could be a difficult dragon to claim, given how large and fierce she is, and also she might be dead by the time of these Targaryens are alive. Not from any battle, let's say, but just from old age. So if we can give Aerion Vhagar, what are we gonna give him? Well, let's give him Caraxes. I think that would be the next best choice. The dragon of the Rogue Prince, who was a legendary Targaryen and also very violent. Daemon wielded a Valyrian steel blade, Dark Sister, and was proud of his Valyrian heritage. Also, look at the look of Caraxes, the Bloodworm. It's such a cool and violent design for a dragon with that long neck and that eerie screech that he has. I think Aerion would be so happy to claim the dragon that belonged to Daemon Targaryen. We've covered 3 Targaryen princes, now let's go to their father, Maekar Targaryen, the Prince of Summerhall. While he loved his brother Baelor, it's pretty fair to say he was still envious of him. He was the crown prince that Targaryen loved by all, nobles and small folk alike. So I think that Maekar's very brutish nature combined with this envy would lead to him claiming Vermithor, the Bronze Fury. Why Vermithor, you ask? Well, he was the dragon of the old king, Jaehaerys the Conciliator, who was the greatest Targaryen king that ever was, despite what Valarr might have you believe. Maekar would want to claim Vermithor because, while he may not be able to be the king, well, as far as he's concerned, claiming the dragon who belonged to the best Targaryen king could make Maekar feel a lot better about his jealousy and his position within their line of succession. And also, look at Vermithor's design. It's awesome. I love this look. But also this old, brutish, and really scarred look that he's got going on perfectly suits Maekar's appearance and his personality. So I really think that these two would have an amazing bond. And of course, it's a shame that this is never possible, but this one in particular was really fun to think about, and it's probably the one I feel the most confident in. Let's move on to a different branch of the Targaryen family tree with Valarr, the son of Baelor Breakspear. And I think Valarr is such a cool name. I love it. It's a shame it's only used once in the entire dynasty. But for his dragon, well, we really don't know much about Valarr, but he kind of gave me Jacaerys vibes from the very little we got of him. He gives me the impression that he feels the weight of the responsibility that comes with ruling, similar to Jace. And because of that, I'm just gonna say he claims Vermax because it just feels right, and I think it'd be pretty good. And finally, let's wrap things off with his father, the Crown Prince himself, Baelor Targaryen. I really did struggle picking a dragon for him, just like with Egg, and I gave him, well, 3 possible options. The first of which is, funny enough, just like with Egg, Silverwing. For reasons pretty similar to Egg, where Silverwing was written by someone who loved the small folk, and it's a strong but gentle dragon. I'm not going to repeat myself too much about it, because I already talked about it, but that's one of my choices for him. Next, I have Vermithor, and yeah, I know. I said Vermithor would go to his brother Maekar, but I think he kind of fits both of them. I don't know. Unlike Maekar's reasoning for claiming Vermithor being kind of jealousy, I think Baelor is that because he does not have a traditional Targaryen look, riding the dragon of the old king would give him additional legitimacy. Also, since Baelor kind of looks Dornish, a lot of the nobles don't really like that, and having the dragon that fought in the 4th Dornish War would be a nice little boost of PR for him. But ultimately, I think Meleys the Red Queen is the right choice for Baelor. She and Rhaenys had a strong bond, and I think Baelor would have a particularly strong bond with whatever dragon he bonded with, but something about the look of the dragon, especially considering it would be much bigger if it lived to the time of the Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, just feels so right for Baelor. So that's what I've decided for him. That'll be my final decision. Meleys the Red Queen is going to Baelor Breakspear. So that's my take on what dragons the Targaryens from Dunk and Egg would ride, if they were alive, of course. This is just my opinion, and I'm sure not everybody will agree with this, but I quite like what I landed with, and I think my reasoning's pretty good. If you enjoy this, please like and subscribe, do all those good things. I plan to make more Song of Ice and Fire videos, especially with House of Dragon Season 3 coming up soon. And if you made it to this point, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!